Hey guys, Mark Singing here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be looking at a Dokkan hot takes thread, and I know you might be thinking to yourself, oh okay, here we go. I know this is something that, with the way the Transcendent Dokkan campaign has been going recently, and how quiet the game has been, someone was saying in my stream last night that we all know that Truth loves to do these hot takes threads, and apparently when the game is quiet, he'll jump on one of those, and has done, someone was saying he's done like 6 or 7 of them during this Transcendent Dokkan campaign, which I guess just goes to show you exactly how slow the game has been at the moment. So if it's not one of those things that I do all the time. Every now and then I either spot a thread from somebody I know, or I spot a thread that has some takes in it that I think are absolutely crazy, and so then I do decide to go ahead and do a video on it. But this is one from our boy Holden over on Twitter, and he did tag a bunch of people to take a look at the thread, myself included, and I thought I would do a video on this one because a lot of the time with these hot takes threads, some of them are just like interaction bait, like the craziest takes you could possibly think of, and you know, sometimes, you know, just being done for attention and stuff like that. But one thing I do know about Holden, it usually has pretty good, pretty well thought out takes. I know he's also a massive fan of the Souls series of games, so clearly has good taste. So I thought we might as well go through these as something to do here for today while we patiently wait. Hopefully tomorrow we should get some info, or at least a proper another teaser for the next Dokkan Fest. But obviously for the time being is a pretty quiet weekend on the Dokkan front. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and go through these. So Holden has been playing since day 1 on Global. I was in 7th grade in 2015. That's crazy. Didn't know how summons works until STR Broly came out. These takes will be from different eras across the years of my time in the game. So I've had a quick skim. I know some of them are really like old, right? Talking about like older units, right? So if we take a look, the first one, STR Omega gapped the other 70% leaders in Super Battle Road when it came out in 2017. People do not talk about it enough. The only one comparable was AGL Vegito, but he died to supers, whereas Omega completely shut down the enemy. There's a reason versus Super Physical was always the easiest stage. And yeah, this is very true, right? This is something that when he got his Easy A, there were the category stages like Full Power and stuff like that, which massively benefited from this guy. But it's one thing that we should have learned way back when this guy came out, but passive attack lowering is ridiculously effective, more so than just attack lowering as an effect of like a super attack or something. And so yeah, having this guy on the rotation, massively reducing the enemy's attack, made a lot of these events like significantly easier, right? So Omega definitely one of the better 70% leads when it came to Super Battle Road, if not the best, right? Saying he gaps the other 70% leaders in Super Battle Road. Remember, we're talking about Super Battle Road specifically, so I think this is a fair take. Super Vegito, again, in the like versus Extreme STR, obviously could be very good with like the free damage from counters and stuff like that, but obviously the issue with AGL Super Vegito in difficult content, because remember when Super Battle Road first came out, people were very much like complaining about how difficult it was. Super attacks would absolutely be destroying Super Vegito, right? So obviously the counters are really good for extra damage, but Omega just being able to completely debuff the enemy by such a massive amount obviously was very, very good. So I would say that this is a take that I can absolutely 100% be on board with. Let me know what you guys think down below. So then we have STR LR Broly was the best unit in the game until Tech LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And I remember this period of the game as well. Like Tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku LR, when he came out, was the single hardest hitting unit in the game, right, at that point. But STR Broly was the best in the game until Super Saiyan 3 Goku came out later in December. Broly did more damage than Gohan, was infinitely better in Super Battle Road, and both of them one-shot Dokkan events until SBR dropped. Yeah, because this is a thing, like, back then, obviously, end game content wasn't what it is now, right, in terms of difficulty. Dokkan events obviously started to... Once we got to the point where Dokkan events just became very, very easy to beat with no items. Obviously, things like boss rush became irrelevant in terms of like a difficult event, because obviously it no longer had any difficulty, right? Like once Dokkan events are at the level of you can just do them with no items, boss rush loses its challenge, right? Because the whole point of boss rush, like back when boss rush was first a thing, when I was first playing the game, the reason why it was hard was because you only had your one set of items, but you had to do multiple fights in a row. Whereas obviously normally when you do a Dokkan event, you could just use all your items in that stage if you wanted to, right? So once they became easy enough to do with no items, boss rush was kind of pointless. But yeah, Super Battle Road was really the big thing when it came out, that like people were going crazy complaining it was too hard. I've mentioned this before in the past, but like I watched streams like when I was working my night shifts in my old job of like people spending 2 hours trying to beat like one stage with items, right, when it first came out, until people really got used to the fact that the game had kind of, like it has now with endgame content, loads of Dokkan events and stuff like that had started disabling like stun, seal, attack lower, stuff like that. So people weren't really concentrating on those kind of units much anymore. And obviously those units became incredibly good in Super Battle Road. And then obviously for Broly, not only was he doing crazy damage, but obviously doing the AoE, he was very, very good for Super Battle Road, which, you know, when it came out was hands down like the hardest content in the game, right? And obviously, you know, it's not mentioned here, but the fact that he was the OG like world tournament killer as well, he's just a unit that has always had a ton of value ever since his release. I remember, of course, I've said this many times when we were talking about like his EZA upcoming and stuff, but he was a global first. He's the first summonable LR that I ever pulled, so always have a bit of a soft spot for STR LR Broly. Piggybacking off that, STR LR Broly was underrated and smeared by the community for the majority of 2017 to 2018. Did he die to supers? Yes, but so did Goten and Trunks, Int Gohan, AGL Martian Vegeta, etc. You know, like what Broly did do, wipe fields in Super Battle Road. His EZA was well received as well. Like, yeah, his EZA was actually really good, giving him decent enough defense to be good in solid events. But yeah, some of the LRs that came out after him, I remember around that time with like the AGL Vegeta and Trunks. Majin Vegeta was kind of always in a weird spot because Extreme AGL back then, like, there basically weren't any Saiyans, so it was like a really weird team for Majin Vegeta. But yeah, Broly has always been very good. The journey that APT has gone through from its inception in early 2016 to 17 to the modern era is quite fascinating. I would strongly argue that it was better back in its earlier years than it is now. Back when Mobile Man, Kamino Seiji, and Vinny Bones. I've never heard of any of these people. Like back in the day, I very much, when I first started playing the game, even when I first started making content, wasn't really involved in the community much and didn't know who any of these people were. But yeah, the APT has always been one of those things where it would be, I don't know, I think it's different now because a lot more people understand calcs and stuff, but like the thing about this, the big thing I always remember when I first became a creator and getting into back and forth with people like on Twitter is that people would do the calculations, look at the APT, look at the number that came out at the end of the calculator and then just be like, well, this unit's terrible. But like, as we know, sometimes the numbers on their own aren't the only thing, right? Like I've used units before, like obviously the numbers don't lie as long as you're doing the equations right for certain situations. But some people would make a very blanket like, oh, well, this is the number that this unit gets in this situation, therefore they are terrible and you can't use them in this content. And I would have back and forth with people for like, even back when I was doing my like Super Battle Road no item runs a lot, and like some, you know, when I think it was when the Heroes units came out that had like Pan, and like people were saying like, well, the APT for her defense and her percentage chance to dodge, like she's just unusable in these events. And it's like, well, I've used her to no item these events because at the end of the day, as much as we talk about how dodge or die characters are not something you can necessarily rely on, at the end of the day, you can get good RNG and just get the dodges and stuff. So when it comes to APT, it's not something I've ever put a huge amount of like weight into. People do calcs for units. We get to see the numbers they could potentially hit, but I always prefer to see them in the game anyway. So it's not something I really care about. But number 5, despite newer events, I miss Super Battle Road style of event difficulty. I wouldn't mind if they upped its difficulty or released a super extreme Super Battle Road that would be like a super easy A for SBR, like ESBR was an easy A for SBR. I prefer those events to a lot of modern ones. I mean, it'd be no surprise to anyone who's followed my channel from sort of like the early years, right? But I 100% agree with this, right? Super Battle Road was by far my favorite event in the game. That's why I put so much effort into doing all of the no item runs, obviously having the like meme sort of like rivalry with Truth, the whole Super Battle Road King, like all of that stuff. Like obviously that massively helped to grow my channel, and it's something that I just really enjoy doing because I really liked Super Battle Road. And I liked the fact that, as opposed to some of the other more difficult events in the game, like you could take advantage of some of these weirder units that would do things like sealing and stunning and stuff. Like Extreme Tech was the biggest one, like the hardest one to do. But imagine like no other kind of event outside of Super Battle Road would you be doing things like running, you know, Tech Raditz or like free to play Tech Lord Slug, because they do things like stun and lower attack and stuff like that, right? So Super Battle Road has always been one of my favorite events in the game. It's funny, memey like to call it that, but yeah, like super extreme Super Battle Road, I could see it, because even with extreme Super Battle Road, as the new stages come out, they haven't really like upped the difficulty to keep up with the meta of like the units that we have now. Like once we got 200% leads, Super Battle Road became way easier, and it feels like they haven't upscaled it at all. And especially now with 220 leads, like it really feels like when you go into a Super Battle Road run now, unless you get a bad starting rotation, like the only thing that you can really kill you is like a slot 1 super. And then once everybody on your team starts attacking and you've brought your like stunners and sealers and stuff like that, like the stages just feel way easier than they used to. So I would definitely be up for some sort of extreme version or difficulty spike for Super Battle Road. Like go back to that time, as much as some of them used to really annoy me because they would take hours for some of the really hard ones, but yeah, go back to those days where, you know, I would spend a whole stream trying to beat one stage with no items because it was actually that hard. Like that kind of stuff was fun for me. I know a lot of people don't like those kind of challenges and no item runs and stuff, but I used to love that. And like the stream where we finally beat Extreme Tech, like all of that stuff, it created some awesome moments. So I really love Super Battle Road, and yeah, I would love to see it get a bit of a revamp and a bit of a difficulty increase. I think that would be very cool. So obviously let me know what you guys think. STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku was better than physical Topo in the 9th anniversary meta. Topo was a tank after he transformed, meanwhile Goku simply dodged all attacks, built in full dodge. And while Topo ate supers for 400k, Goku took 0 and countered while supporting. Better setups too. Now, this one, I think I might be somewhat biased, I guess, because I mean, well, it doesn't really matter too much, the fact I don't like Topo as a character, but regardless of that, I didn't pull him when he first came out. So comparing them to like, you know, when they were at their peak is probably a bit more difficult for me to do, because I got Goku when he came out, but not Topo. But I always thought that STR Dragon Fist Goku was really good and potentially even a little bit underrated, I maybe would go as far as to say. But yeah, I'm not sure about this, because the thing is with Dragon Fist Goku, one of the big things was it kind of came down to dodge for him, right? Like against some of the biggest enemy attacks and stuff like that, if you weren't dodging, then you could potentially be in trouble. Whereas, you know, Topo obviously after transforming, as it says here, does become very tanky. I mean, even after actually pulling my first copy of Topo, I've still barely used him, so it's not something that I can really like comment on, I guess, in a huge amount. But I do think Dragon Fist Goku was massively underrated, so you guys will have to let me know, how do you think Topo was in the meta when he came out? How do you think he compares to Dragon Fist Goku? I've always been a fan of Dragon Fist Goku. Can't wait for his Easy A. I know it will be some time, but very much looking forward to that. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Number 7, with the ever-improving nature of Dokkan, many things are quickly dying from old age. The friend summon banner is pointless 95% of the year, other than Kai's, when it used to provide great free-to-play characters. Battlefield does not have any difficulty and its rewards are dated. Yeah, Battlefield is one of those things that, like, the only real challenge to it is if you're a newer player actually being able to field like the full team and everything, right? But really, Battlefield it's not super difficult. You can, as long as you've got enough units, you can make multiple teams, so that even if, like, when they do release the new battlefield, sometimes the new, like, final boss can catch people out a little bit. But if you fully stacked your roster, you have, like, multiple spare teams when you get to the end as well. So it's not an event that is super difficult. But yeah, the rewards that you get, like the things you can exchange the battlefield memories for, none of them are really particularly great, right? Like, all of the battlefield LRs are all just kind of mid. So there's no real, like, incentive. They have increased the resource, like, collection, right? You do get more memories now, because we got to that weird point where we'd essentially, you know, you couldn't buy everything in the shop, but if you'd done every single battlefield up to that point, you would then be out of battlefield memories. It happened for me during the Golden Week last year when Barbary and Dabura got their Easy A, and then I couldn't actually buy all of their Easy A medals. And that was down to me buying all the dupes for the LRs and stuff straight away, which I probably should have held back on. But yeah, Battlefield is just kind of, it needs some sort of update, I think, to be a bit more relevant again. And then yeah, the friend summon banner has essentially just become, like, completely pointless now, right? Because apart from, as mentioned here, when you do the special, like, they do the special version of the banner, and then you can get the like extra Kais and stuff like that. That's kind of like the only time we actually ever summon on it. And other than that, there's no real, like, use for it. There's no real need to do it or anything, right? So yeah, it is one of those things that the friend summon banner basically is completely pointless at this point. It would be very cool for them to actually do a new friend summon LR. I think that's something that they could do still at some point, even though they haven't done one for a long time. Like, I don't see why we couldn't have a new one sometime soon, but obviously I guess we would have to wait and see. But yeah, friend summon banner, kind of pointless at the moment. Let me know what you guys think. Continuing off of number 7, hidden potential system was great for a while, but needs to be better. Our units have additionals, crits and dodge baked into their kits. Let me pick something new for my unit to do, or stronger pre-existing buffs. It needs to be revamped or expanded on. Because yeah, back in the day, like, obviously units didn't have as many crazy abilities in their own passives. Like, a unit might have an additional, or might have chance to crit, or chance to dodge, or something like that. Whereas now, a lot of units actually end up getting some sort of combination of all three. And then the hidden potential, you can either maximize one of their abilities to, like, make it even stronger, or, which, I mean, for a lot of units now, how many units have come out recently, big powerful units that do so many different abilities as part of their passive, that really the only thing you need to do with the hidden potential is just give them dodge for that little bit of extra defense, because a lot of units can build up to 100% crit, or a lot of units get multiple additional supers. So with the small amount of additional that they'll already have, or you could give them with, like, skill orbs and stuff, they can proc additionals very easily. So we've talked for years about ways they could improve the hidden potential system, adding in new things for abilities like chance to guard, damage reduction, like some other interesting things. But it's something that I feel, for them to actually achieve something like that, it probably requires, like, a full revamp essentially. So I guess we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that. So number 9, festival is great. Oof. Okay, so we've got to our first actual hot take here. I enjoy myself when I get to the end. I've been loving the units made for it. I play as I go about my day. However, my current issue is too few units are made for it. Many units released this year could have had stacking and still be balanced, but didn't. So, like, we've got Omega, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, Tekko Kengoku as an example. Now, obviously, when it comes to this, you guys know my thoughts on Festival. We don't need to go into it hugely in this video, but obviously I don't agree with this. I do not like Festival. I do not think it is great. But it is what it is. I mean, the thing is, like, I play it as I go about my day. I mean, I know that is a thing that people do, where you can just play while you're doing something else, and just every now and then look back down at your phone and get like, play the next turn or whatever. But for me, like, it's one of those things where that is not, for me, that's not a good selling point of the mode. Where it's like, if you're trying to play a mode in a game, and then someone's trying to sell it to you with, like, yeah, but you don't even need to actually pay attention to it when you're playing it. It's like, well, Normally when I'm playing a game, it's because I want to be playing the game and like paying attention to it. But obviously I do get that as an argument for when people say like, oh, it takes 3 hours. I don't want to just be sat staring at my phone for 3 hours. It's like, well, obviously you can, if you want to, make it take a little bit longer and just be doing something else at the same time. Like if you're watching something or playing something else, and obviously it takes a lot longer to get through because you're not giving it your full attention. But it also means you are able to be doing something else while you are going through a run and stuff, which I mean, I get that, right? But yeah, it's not something that is hugely appealing to me on the whole, but you know, it is what it is. Festival is just an event. Like I do get like, it's cool when you get to the end and you see like, oh yeah, look, you know, look at this unit stacked up to like 40 million defense. I mean, it doesn't quite get that high for anyone really, but look at these units, like they're stacked up to all this crazy defense. Like that is cool, but it's also, it's cool. It's hard to explain it, but like it's cool to see it in the game, in the menu, but at the same time, like we know that that's what's going to happen. Like, as the meme always says, like, the stack are going to stack, right? You could literally, if you really wanted to, just put a number into a calculator, press, like, plus 10%, and then just keep pressing equals and watch the number go up and up and up. That's all it is every turn of Festival looking at your unit's defense. It's just seeing them get that extra bit of percentage go up on their defense, which, you know, whilst it's, like I say, whilst there is that cool, like, it is kind of cool to see it in the game, but as I said, it's not something that we don't know is happening, right? We know that the units are going up with more defense to a certain amount every turn. But yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But yes, not enough units have come out for it. I kind of agree with the fact that they obviously now are releasing missions, especially when it came to like the extreme typing one. I feel like they gave us a mission that was very, very difficult unless you had like very specific units, which seems like kind of a harsh thing to do, but obviously we'll have to see, I guess, what comes out. We know that the hints for whatever is coming up next potentially is going to be an extreme unit. So if that unit is extreme AGL, int or tech and is a stacker, then obviously they will be a little bit more beneficial for doing this mission, but I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Festival, but let me know your thoughts down below. Number 10, the tag mechanic is the best mechanic added to Dokkan since active skills. It has fundamentally changed the way they approach unit design and has opened the doors for endless releases of new characters or just tag variants of units that were previously joined forces. I mean, yeah, I would probably agree with this in terms of like overall game changing sort of like mechanical aspect. Like releasing this reversible exchange is definitely a huge thing for the game, because yeah, as this post even says, right, basically every joined forces character can essentially be redone as a reversible exchange character. There's just a ton of different options that they can do here when it comes for making units, and especially the stuff that we see obviously like with the Tanabata LR, them doing things like the Frieza and Gogeta, which is a kind of card that we would never see like without the reversible exchange system, right? So I think that's definitely very cool. It's something that I am looking forward to seeing what they do even more with stuff like this, because there are so many different options for characters that they could put together that we wouldn't normally expect to see. And I think this is definitely something that could be very cool and very interesting going forward. So obviously let me know what you guys think down below. Who would you most like to see as an upcoming reversible exchange character? There's a ton of different options out there, so let me know what you guys think down below. But yes, reversible exchange, I would agree, absolutely great mechanic, has definitely been a great overall improvement for the game. So then we have number 11. Dokkan does not take worldwide units EZA seriously enough. There is zero reason to hold them to a lesser regard than anniversary units, as Dokkan themselves often compare the two as equally important events. The difference between Vegito and Buhan to year 6s and the Namek LRs to the year 7s is what I mean. Namek, Goku and Full Power Frieza were good on EZA. They were, but they were not as good as they should have been given their impact on the community on release and how poorly they aged the following year after release. Namek Goku being good for Festival when he can still die to supers and do barely any damage is not good enough for me. Frieza being homeless when he was fighting MUI for number 1 in his prime is irritating. These units were strong on EZA but not to the standards I want and not to the standards of what the celebration represents in Dokkan. Same goes for Vegito and Buhan, although Buhan had a better shelf life than the rest of the 3 mentioned. For God's sake, AGL Gohan and Incel were practically unusable months after they EZA'd. Again, anniversary level characters. Now this is true, right? And think about Namek, Goku and Full Power Frieza when they first came out, super good. As he mentions here, right, like a lot of people thought that Full Power Frieza could potentially be the number 1 unit in the game. At a time when most people thought it was most likely just like UI Goku or something, right? But this guy had the potential to be number 1. And then when he got his EZA, remember the reason he mentions the 7 year, these guys EZA'd during the anniversary where the 7 year units EZA'd, right? So surely they should be on that similar kind of level, because that's what we're, you know, looking to see, like within the same celebration, but they just weren't, right? And so, yeah, these units, like the worldwide, especially as a global player, when we had to wait, like, I guess to be fair, for global, it was not long after the anniversary, but we have to wait until the later part of the year. And then for the worldwide characters, they wouldn't come back for like 10 months if you were a global player. And so then for these characters to get kind of like a disappointing EZA, I think is not great. They should be on the level of anniversary. I'm not saying that like Full Power Frieza and Goku should literally been as good as the 7 year LRs, but the gap between them is pretty massive, right? Dabura and Tapion need Dokkan festivals yesterday. I agree with this. Like both of these guys were characters that we talked about potentially being prospects for the upcoming Dokkan Fest. Dabura for like buffing demonic power, having like the stone spit like active skill as a ghost usher would be super cool. And then yeah, Tapion, obviously movie hero buff, bringing in like the Tapion and Minosha EZA, something that I think would be very cool and definitely should happen very soon. Dokkan puts too much budget into free-to-play units animations. They can be good units, but they do not need summonable level animations like some have gotten recently. LR Demon King Piccolo comes to mind. If you're going to make him look that good, then just make him summonable. Waste of resources. I mean, I kind of get it, I suppose. Like, those resources could be put towards some of the other characters who've come out that are summonable, that people have maybe been a bit disappointed in their animations. But I don't think you necessarily, like... I mean, free-to-play units are questionable most of the time anyway. I don't think we also want them having bad animations, because then even if we do get one that ends up being actually quite good and you want to run them on your team, you don't want a unit that has shoddy animations like ever, right? But I do kind of get this. Like the LR Demon King Piccolo, his animations were very good considering he's a free-to-play unit. But you do also have to remember he's a 10th anniversary unit as well, technically. And they did make a big deal about the 10th anniversary, so I guess that is something to consider as part of it as well, the fact that he's not just a run-of-the-mill free-to-play unit, right? So I guess that's something that should be considered as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, obviously. But yeah, the biggest sin Dokkan has committed to this day is AGL LR Ulma Gohan's active skill condition. Vegito Blues is pretty bad. Physical Ultron not being Beast kind of sucked. But AGL LR Gohan just couldn't transform at almost any point in the unit's lifespan. Picture unrelated. I mean, this is very true. Like, stuff like Gohan not actually being Beast was obviously something that annoyed a lot of people, which is fair. But, like, yeah, I can definitely see where he's coming from with this, because yeah, you had to jump through so many hoops for the potential to get Gohan to actually transform that it was just very difficult, if not impossible, in a lot of situations. So yeah, things like Beast not being physical Ulma Gohan not being Beast was disappointing, but it didn't make the unit bad or unusable or anything. Like, there were aspects of his kit that made the unit bad in some people's opinions, right? But it wasn't the fact that he wasn't actually a Beast Gohan. Whereas this Gohan's transformation directly affected like the quality of the unit and everything. So I think that is definitely a good point. So let me know what you guys think down below. In LR, Rose was not contending for #1 on release like many people, Truth specifically, said. In fact, his defense was bad. In essence, he was just tech LR Broly, but did less damage in Super Battle Road and had worse setups. Died to supers, but Broly both died to supers, but Broly was the better unit. Yeah, I'm trying to think back to when Int Rose came out. I can't remember if I pulled him back during that time, like when he first released. I remember, like, because obviously the 7 years were absolutely crazy. I'm sorry, the 5 years. This was during the 5th year. The 5 years were really good when they first came out. People kind of soured on them fairly quickly, though, I think. But obviously they were good when they first came out. And then, yeah, Rose, I remember, like, Truth being all over, like, pushing this agenda that Rose was better than the 5 years. But I think it was just because at that time, I think he might have been one of the hardest hitting units in the game. And he did have decent defense. Like, his defense wasn't bad or anything by any stretch. But he wasn't, like, super crazy. I don't know. I think I remember watching some of the videos from back then. And, like, yeah, obviously thought that he looked pretty good. But I don't think I was ever on board with he was the best unit in the game. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. But this art sucks. It's reflected in the chest, face, arms and hands. It's so lazy. Looking at it really irks me because Coolers is so dynamic. Yeah, that is kind of one thing. I've never thought that the art necessarily is bad. But like when you look at Coolers art and then this Goku, there's something about it that just is really undynamic to me, right? Like it's just the fact that it's like a face on. He's just stood like hands out in front. Like there's nothing like exciting about it. And considering it's it's the first Carnival LR, the first ever Carnival LR, and it's an LR art for a big celebration, and like, yeah, overall just feels a little bit disappointing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the art sucks, but yeah, it's definitely not a great art for sure. So I can agree with that, right? Tech Exchange Boo was actually good when he came out and was largely buffed by the link level update as well as being supported by Tech Semi-Perfect Cell. Yeah, the 50% support. These additions enabled him to tank in Super Battle Road and ESBR. People only remember his legacy as a unit who dies to normals. I think he's one of those units, again, I didn't pull him on release. And then when I did finally get him, I wasn't super impressed. The Martian Power team obviously has gone through a couple of different leaders with potential based on some of the different celebrations, but obviously when this guy got his EZA it was really good. But yeah, I can't say I'm somebody that used him very much in Super Battle Road or anything to really be able to agree or disagree with this take. 2021 and 2022 had the greatest banner units ever made. Dokkan has not replicated this level of banner units despite still dropping good ones. The kits are fine, but they're competing with too many top tier LRs and the banner units are not designed for the main unit anymore. Yeah, because some of these guys, like this Goten and Trunks supporting the, was it Vegeta family or Goku family back when they came out for that GT celebration. That third form Frieza, like you wanted this guy for Frieza's team, right? And he was really good. Once he got multiple supers off, he was quite tanky. The STR Piccolo from the Goku banner, he stayed relevant for ages as a movie hero's like support character. Pan was obviously super good, despite being a bit dodge or die for the harder bosses. Really good for the superhero team. And that's one of the things we always talk about with banner units. They should be designed to go on the new unit's team and make that team better. And so whenever ones come out that are not designed like that, it just is very confusing as to why they would choose to do the design like that, right? So yeah, it's I can agree that with some of these as the examples, these are obviously some very good banner units. Dokkan's treatment of Bardock in comparison to Broly is generally laughable. The two most popular non-canon characters, yet one of them gets repeated releases that are underwhelming, while Broly is always fighting for #1 in some areas. Think back on AGL Bardock, Tech Bardock, some of his Easy A's, etc. Not many great Bardock premium releases. I mean, as someone, you guys know, I'm a big fan of Bardock. He's one of my favourite characters. I could definitely agree with this. Bardock releases are hit or miss. I really liked some of the Easy A's, like the physical Super Saiyan and the Int Super Saiyan 3. I thought their Easy A's were pretty good, maybe even verging on being a little bit underrated on release. But yeah, some of them have not been so great, or even if they were decent on release, like aged fairly quickly, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's Bardock definitely does not get anywhere near the same level of love that Broly gets, because Broly, as quite rightly pointed out here, new Broly units that come out are very often in contention for being the new best unit of a specific category, right? Whether it's Carnival LR or Dokkan Fest or anything like that, right? So hopefully we'll get a new Bardock release sometime soon. We've still got some like super Easy A's or Easy A's that we could get, the Bardock Ape Squad Easy A's and stuff like that. So hopefully a new premium Bardock release sometime soon that is actually good would be nice. Speaking of bad treatment, STR Perfect Cell is terrible. I tried to cope for him, but he just dies everywhere, has no help, could barely beat the events that were out when he released. So far has been the biggest letdown of 2025 for me, along with Daima Vegeta. I mean, I would just agree with this completely. He got a ton of help after his release, but even then, like at that point, it was kind of too late. Like, I feel bad if you summoned for him like when he came out and got him, like, he just wasn't that great and needed a ton of extra help. Like, he's just very, very unfortunate. And I would agree, probably one of the bigger letdowns of 2025. LR Bio Broly is a better free-to-play release than LR Nova. Well, this is interesting. Nova is great. He can nullify most of the hard fight supers, but then turns around and can potentially die to their normals. That is true. Meanwhile, Bio Broly went 4 hours straight without losing to Go Frieza. Oh yeah, he makes a reference to this somewhere else as well, but like, yeah, people doing the like gauntlet runs of just repeatedly replaying the hardest fight in the game at that time, which was the Blue Zone Goku and Frieza, and like Bio Broly just never being killed in that event, which is obviously quite good. It's one of those things that people will take, like on Twitter especially, people will take one run where they win or one run where they lose and then be like, yeah, see, this unit is terrible, this unit is unusable in this event, like XYZ. Whereas I feel like this is a much more interesting way to test out units like that, where it's like, here's me running the event like, 20 times. How many times did the unit perform well or badly? Probably is a more reliable kind of way of testing that out rather than just, going into the event once and then losing, right? So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Red Zone fights this year are all boring. The 10th anniversary Red Zone didn't have enough toxic mechanics, which I mean, I don't really like toxic mechanics, but I kind of get it. Too spongy. Yeah, like the last fights versus Goku and Vegeta, they didn't really have crazy mechanics. They just had tons of HP. Vegeta always supered in slot 1, so as long as you built your teams with like a really good, like strong slot 1 tank that you could put on both rotations, have someone in slot 1 on both turns, then you never really needed to worry about him killing you. So I guess that is kind of true. And then we have the Goku. I mean, Goku could super twice. That could be a little bit annoying. But again, wasn't really anything like super, super crazy. So yeah, I'm not sure. Current Tanabata Red Zone is too weak, low in stats and HP, a huge letdown than my favourite events are the GDC fights, Hybrid Blue Zone and Festival. I mean, yeah, the Broly fight we've talked about quite a bit, with the fact that it's with a team that can put out like a ton of burst damage is like the best kind of team that you want to use for the new Red Zone Broly, because he builds up with each attack he receives. So I guess they've kind of done it that way on purpose, because when he's fully built up, like he could hit you insanely hard. So the kind of counterbalance to that is that he doesn't have an insane amount of HP, and so ideally you kill him before he gets too built up and goes crazy and kills you, right? Is I guess kind of the point of that. But I don't know, I think the Red Zone stages that have come out have been interesting. I do kind of agree, I guess, like none of the Red Zone stages from this celebration in particular have been like super, super challenging and have felt like, okay, yeah, this is, hands down now, this is the new hardest fight in the game. But I don't know if I would necessarily say that the difficult content was like all boring, or at least the red zones. But let me know what you guys think. Int Hit is better than AGL Kid Goku in Festival, and it's not even close. Int Hit is easily the best TUR for Festival, tied with maybe Tech Kefla. I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan of Festival. I know Hit's really good there. I've seen a lot of runs with him, so I'm not going to argue with that at all. The gap between Khalifa and KO and Tech Gobros was not that big in LGE when you take into consideration Gobros were tanking every super and normal for double digits, except in UI, while having a better team. They did similar damage. Kale and Khalifa were definitely a tier above, but not 2 tiers. I mean, yeah, when they came out, wasn't the Legendary Goku event like the hardest event in the game? So they basically were the best unit in the game because they were the best unit for that event. But the Gobros, especially on release, and again, this was another unit that was a really cool like release, being a global first. This was another unit that I very much liked and had a lot of fun with, thought was very good, was lucky enough to pull like on release. But yeah, I think Kel and Khalifa have always been better than the Gobros. He's just saying here, I guess, that not like insanely better to be like considered multiple tiers above or something, I guess, right? Which is fair enough. Their EZA though, worst EZA relative to what kind of release they are. A Dokkan Festival LR whose EZA was mid. I think the entire celebration was bad too. Physical Turles. Best part about it was in Amand and Raisin. I mean, this is probably true, right? Like the banner unit was actually still pretty usable, whereas like Turles himself aged out like incredibly quickly. So yeah, this is actually I would say I kind of agree with this. One of the best things about the Physical Turles celebration was actually that one banner unit. I really hated the Part 2 units from the 6th anniversary on release. They felt clunky with the team and could often die in certain Gathering of the Gods stages. They were the low point of that celebration. I think I agree with that because they absolutely knocked it out of the park with their EZAs. Their EZAs are actually really, really good, and it was like a massive comeback for them because their original releases, I also agree, were pretty disappointing. Tech Super Saiyan 3 Broly was not the worst 120 lead. Ooh. He has great link partners in Tech Rose and Marseillan. The worst 120 leader was easily Int Kid Buu, who could barely even manage to get supers off. I don't know about that one. I'm trying to think back to when these units came out. Like the Int Buu Extreme Int team still had a lot of supports. Was Int Turles still runnable back then in the 120 meta? Maybe. Some events you could still stun, I think. But no, Broly has never been good, right? Like even on release. And just having some good link partners, like Broly has never been good. Whereas I feel like if we're just talking about solo performance, like I guess he is mentioning link partners here specifically. And Kid Buu did kind of struggle for Ki a little bit, that is true. But like on individual performance, I would say that I've always thought Ink Kid Buu was a lot better than Super Saiyan 3 Broly. Like not necessarily thinking about like the team setups and stuff like that. I think Kid Buu has always been a little bit more impressive both offensively and defensively. So I don't know, let me know what you guys think on that one. In Super Saiyan 4, Gogeta hard cleared Tech Gohan in 2020. Don't care what hybrid stands will say. Gogeta could fail a counter, sure, but he deleted enemies and tanked normals and some supers post-super. Sometimes he died, but it was rare. EZA physical VB was better too. I'm not sure about that one. I know there was the big thing, like Tech Gohan was considered the best unit in the game by the hybrid stands for a long time. But in Super Saiyan 4, Gogeta released and was definitely a unit that people thought was in contention for being the best unit in the game. So I think back in the day, like, as I remember I summoned for the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, pulled him on his first banner and definitely had a lot of fun using him, thought he was very good. I remember doing a video breaking down the comparison between him and the Int Broly, because Int Broly from that year's Saiyan Day, the legendary Super Saiyan 1, was really good as well. And they were, I think at one point, there were arguments that could be made for like which one of them was better. And I remember I did a whole video breaking down like different categories, like offense, defense, teams, links, all that kind of stuff for both of those characters, to try and determine like which one was better for each of those different aspects, which was kind of fun. But yeah, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Int has always been a well-liked and like top tier on release character. So whether you liked Tech Gohan more or him more, They were both very, very good. LR Majin Vegeta was never really in a good spot on release. Yeah, we mentioned this earlier when talking about the LRs. He had no partner on Extreme AGL for Super Battle Road. AGL itself, it was just better to run AGL Super 74 Vegeta lead. Probably the weakest of the original LRs, and his EZA was worse. Yeah, his EZA was so disappointing. I don't know what they were thinking with his EZA, to be honest. Super EZA will be upcoming at some point, so hopefully they fix that. Tech UI was not good enough for me. Was he top 10? Yeah, but he wasn't top 5. He aged super fast. I think of him like a fusion of STR Vegeta and AGL Broly, but they toned his damage back too much for base. He could get sniped by normals and supers in base too. The weakest UI Goku released so far. I mean, I might honestly say that I do agree with this. Like, I remember when I was making the tier list back when he came out, it was like, when he transforms, and especially on the turn he transforms, then sure, you can argue him as like one of, if not the best unit. But like, he doesn't start off as that guy. He starts off as the base Tech UI. And he was quite disappointing in a lot of ways, I think. So, I don't know, is he the weakest UI on release? Like, Int was super good on release. The STR was super good on release. AGL was arguably the best unit on release. So yeah, probably. Int Broly was in discussion for top 3 on release. I like him more than Physical Trio, Tech LR Broly, STR Family Kamehameha, and STR Beast were better, but Int Broly had near 100% win rate in Go Frieza. Yeah, this is another one of those like 4 hours of like Int Broly team versus Goku and Frieza, and just absolutely Int Broly just crushing that stage. But yeah, so he's saying that STR Family Kamehameha and STR Beast were better, because yeah, they were pretty crazy. But yeah, a lot of people had arguments for Broly back then being one of the best units in the game after that Broly Worldwide had actually taken place. And I can kind of see the arguments for it, right? I didn't get him straight away and had to wait for the anniversary to pick him up with coins, and unfortunately his team has outdated quite quickly since then. But yeah, Int Broly was very, very good on release. And there we go, that's the end of the thread. I didn't have that many hot takes. I tried really hard to think of some. Watch my Dokkan Hall of Fame video. Stay safe. Yeah, there we go. And then, yeah, like I say, tagged a bunch of people, and that's what caught my attention. So let me know what you guys think. Like I say, there's not really a lot of takes in this I would consider hot takes. Obviously, you know, having my jokes about Festival and how I don't like it. But most of the things in here, for someone who's been playing the game for so long, like myself, are all just things that I think, if I think back to those periods when those units came out and what the game was like back then, I think most of these are fairly rational, fairly sensible takes. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. If you do want to see more of these, if you've seen a thread that you think is particularly either good or terrible that you want me to react to, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe we will do another one of these. Hopefully we'll have some content incoming sometime soon though, so there will be something to actually do in the game. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and shout out to Holden. But yeah, that is going to be it for the video. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.